Reaching Immortal will give you an immense feeling of mastery. It's something only a very small percentage of everyone playing Valorant will ever accomplish, and in today's video I'll give you tons of tips to make the journey there easier. I'll be giving you tips that haven't been shared on Valorant YouTube before, and I'll make the entire video super structured with timestamps throughout. So if there's anything you've heard before, you can skip ahead whenever you want to. First, I need to talk about making mental notes every time you go down in a round. When you go down, you want to think about what went wrong here and think, what could I have done differently? A simple mental note can, for instance, be that you should have smoked a certain spot as Jan, had better crosshair placement for a particular spot on a site, or that you should have asked your team to flash you out when entering. If you can get in the habit of consistently making these mental notes every time you get shut down in a round, you will improve faster than the vast majority. It will also help you take accountability for the mistakes you make, which is something many players definitely do not. Moving on, I want to talk about something people don't understand, and that is that you shouldn't expect anything from your teammates. How often do you have a Cypher on your team that goes 4-11 and says, I'm playing my role and doing my job? Or maybe you've even been this player yourself. When you're playing your matches on your way up to Immortal, whether it be in Plat or High Ascendant, you are the main character. You need to be the guy carrying and playing your role, whether that be on Sage, Cypher, or Jan, and getting high kill matches. Using the excuse that you're playing for the team and your role when you go double negative in a game will not get you to Immortal. Even in Immortal, it's ridiculous to cope with the fact that you're playing your role and getting low kills. Simply do not do this. The way you're going to reach Immortal is by having a lot of firepower, understanding the fundamentals of movement and aim, and focusing on having impact and getting high kills every game you play. Because if you have the mindset that as a Cypher player, I shouldn't be top fragging, you're heavily limiting your own skill development and also your ranked progress. This is of course not to say that you should focus only on kills. You need to focus on impact, as every other Valorant guide will tell you, but the most impact usually comes from dropping players in the rounds you play. I also see players in every rank being super negative to the players on their team bottom fragging, blaming them for losing the match, and although this very often is the case, in that you will get players that are terrible on your team on your journey to Immortal, nothing good comes from flaming your teammates. They will at least not play any better from you being mean to them, and at worst, they may even play significantly worse, or simply start trolling as they don't appreciate your negativity. When you get players who are having a terrible match on your team, instead of talking them down, simply say nothing about their performance at all. Give your normal comms, and if they do something good, hype them up. This will make them play 1,000 times better compared to you blaming them. Next up, I need to talk about one of the most overlooked aspects of winning more matches, and that is being good at clutches. Now, obviously everyone knows that if you win a clutch, you secure a round for your team as well as steal a round from the enemy team. However, what nobody thinks about is how negatively you clutching a 1vx situation affects the enemy team's mentality. I bet you all have played a ranked match and you lose, say a 1v3. It happens. Right after, there's about a 95% probability that one player on the team starts flaming somebody, and this will not be positive at all for your team. So if you can be the player who performs clutches somewhat consistently, winning games will be easier for you compared to the competition. And here's how you want to do it. A lot of people, when left in clutch situations, start stressing and think they have to make a move quickly. This is not the truth. When you're left in a clutch, you want to play super slowly and for awareness. I always recommend taking all the time you need, listening for footsteps especially. Hearing footsteps will often give you at least one free kill. Then another opponent will probably try to instantly capitalize off knowing where you are and swing you. Then you can get another kill. The essence here is that you do not want to stress when left alone in a round. It is critical that you become comfortable playing slowly and for awareness in clutches, because the more you do it, the more you'll develop your ability to win situations you objectively shouldn't. If you stress every time you're in a clutch, you'll be in an evil circle of practicing upon flawed fundamentals and extremely slowly improving at the aspect of clutching. So the next time you're in a clutch, force yourself to play slow, and when you get an opportunity, you take it, and take it confidently. This way, you'll be able to get a domino effect on winning rounds by destroying the opposing team's mentality. On a bit more of a practical note, I know a lot of you guys watching don't have a ton of time to play every day. So if this sounds like you need to grind out death matches. You see, here's the thing. Reaching Immortal can almost exclusively be done through having good aim, but getting actual good aim takes a ton of repetitions. Repetitions of fighting. And the most effective way to get that done is by playing deathmatch or team deathmatch. You see, when playing a competitive game, you may get 30 to 40 repetitions of fighting in the span of 40 minutes. 1 repetition of fighting per minute on average. That is not effective practice when it comes to developing your shooting and movement. In deathmatch, you can get at least 4 times the amount of repetitions per minute, making it highly effective to develop good aim and movement. Of course, it needs to be said that the quality of your repetitions in deathmatch won't be anywhere near as good as those you'll get in ranked, where you actually play against players on your level. But the quality of ranked isn't so good to the point where playing ranked is more effective than deathmatch, because a 4x increase in reps per minute is just insane. I also need to say that when playing deathmatch, you have to focus on having good fundamentals. Bursting 2 bullets consistently instead of spraying, because bursting is objectively a way better shooting style in Valorant compared to spraying. You also want to try to avoid developing the habit of always crouching when shooting, as that will make you incredibly easy to headshot, especially when climbing to the higher ranks. You want to make sure to understand exactly when your gun is accurate after having moved. So understanding moving, stopping, and shooting 2 bullets, and moving again and shooting 2 bullets is something you must practice and attempt to master, although it takes hundreds of hours to develop actual good aim using this aiming style. Because if you grind all your hours away in DM and you have a very suboptimal playstyle, your rate of improvement will be slow. So make sure you follow the fundamentals I just mentioned, and what's extremely important is that you try to adapt those very same fundamentals you practice in deathmatch into ranked. What often happens is players have one playstyle, which is optimal in deathmatch, and they play insane. But then for reasons like nervousness, lack of confidence, or just straight out insecurity, they don't follow the same principles in ranked. This is something that will hold you back tremendously. So although you might fail a lot in the beginning, adapting these fundamentals in ranked, always try to do it when playing, as long term you will see way greater success this way, compared to playing with a seriously unoptimal playstyle. Moving on, I gotta touch on a big mistake I see a lot of players make, and that is calling out super complicated plays. If you want your team to play together, it is essential that you make calls that are easily understandable. If you say something like "let's rush C without stopping," breach flashes out instantly, that is way more likely to succeed as a call compared to something way more complicated. The easier you can get your point across, and the easier it is for your teammates to execute said calls, the more rounds you'll win on average. On a bit of the same note, I have a serious hack for you to combat games that I was always using when I solo queued to Immortal. Often when I was down 8-4, 9-3, or even 10-2, my team would be super demotivated and usually wouldn't even try to come back. The sentence I used to say was the following: "Guys, I just came back from a 10-2 half." Now, this was the biggest lie ever, as I can't recall any time me saying it that it was actually the truth. But every now and then, that sentence sparked something in my teammates, and they actually started trying a bit more. Then we would win a round and gain some momentum. Then we would win another, and my teammates understood that we actually stood a chance. And I genuinely believe that because of this single sentence, I have won tens of games I never would have if I didn't say it. So if you're down heavily after half, try it out, because you for sure won't lose anything by saying it. Now, this next tip is super important, and something that will also set you apart from the competition, and that is trusting your intuition. You know how when you're left in a clutch situation, let's say for example a 1v3, in this scenario you have planted a spike and you hear that one player is coming from CT on Sunset. Your intuition is telling you to peek that player and take the 1v1, but one of your teammates is telling you to play it slowly. Knowing what you should do here is difficult if you're not quite experienced, because if you peek and lose, chances are high your teammate will question what you're doing, whereas if you don't peek, you don't trust yourself, the only player you'll be playing every single ranked match with on the journey to Immortal. Intuition and game sense, although not entirely the same, go hand in hand, especially in clutch situations in Valorant. In 1vx situations, you sometimes have to guess where players are coming from and take massive risks. If you consistently trust your intuition, you'll develop it to a high degree as you learn what you can and cannot go for. Whereas if you don't, you practice upon a game style that isn't even what your own brain is telling you. And this is, unfortunately, something that can cause you to be in a lower rank than you actually deserve. So the next time you're in a 1v3 and your brain is telling you to swing an angle and take a quick 1v1, do it, because trusting yourself is crucial if you ever want to reach the top ranks. Next up, I have a major reason a ton of players never reach their potential, and that is because they don't blame themselves when things go south in games. We all know that one guy who's an expert at excuses, saying he's one rank because he's getting put in the losers queue. you, getting terrible teammates, or that is only playing against smurfs. This kind of mentality will never ever get you to the top, and it doesn't serve any purpose when it comes to improving as a player. If you lose a match, then your natural thought process should be, what could I have done better? Even if you're the player top fragging. Adapting this mentality can be super hard, but if you're able to over time genuinely adapt this way of thinking, then your improvement curve compared to everyone else's will be exponential. This right here, of course, doesn't only apply for Valorant, but everything else. Because the sad reality is that you can only, to an extremely limited standard, have control over what others around you are doing, or how well they're playing. Of course, you can cheer them up by having a solid mentality, but other than that, it's very hard to make your teammates play better. So the best way to go about it is to always just look at yourself and what you can do better. Moving on, I quickly just want to touch on the importance of warming up, because not warming up could very potentially be what is holding you back and keeping you in a lower rank than what you actually deserve. You see, if you're able to warm up to an okay standard every day to the point where you're just a little bit more consistent in the ranked games you play, then you'll be able to just a little bit quicker rank up, play against better players, and honestly, as a result of warming up, your entire individual skill level will just snowball to a higher level because of the fact that you'll be playing a tiny bit better every single day compared to if you didn't warm up at all. Obviously, how long you warm up depends on how much time you have to play and how long it takes for you to feel warmed up. An easy warm-up routine can just be hopping into the range for a few minutes, practicing some accurate flicks, maybe using the utility of the agent you're going to play on any given day, and just moving around a little bit, and then hopping into a deathmatch. It doesn't have to be more difficult than that, but that super small effort will, as said, make your ranked progress way faster. Something that helped me tremendously in reaching Immortal for the first time was watching Radiant streamers who played my main agent. You see, these streamers were way better than me at the game, and watching them gave me so many tips in terms of smart plays to make to outplay the competition. What's important when watching streamers to learn is that you're doing so actively. If you're a Jet main watching a Radiant Jet, ask why to the plays he makes. Why did he throw that smoke there? Why did he updraft up on that box? What are the pros and cons of going for said plays? I used to mainly watch streamers and YouTube videos when I couldn't play myself, as playing will still be better in terms of improvement, but most people won't have time or energy to play 24/7. So taking a break and watching someone who's better than you at the game is the next best thing. One thing that took me years to understand is that you can make a good play and still lose a duel. Now, if you go for a play and instantly get headshotted, it's incredibly easy to instantly think, oh, that was a bad play. However, if you can objectively look at the play and not the outcome, and then reflect upon whether or not it was a good play, you will improve so much faster. Let me give you an easy to understand example. You're playing Phoenix in a 1v1 situation. You have one flash remaining and you hear exactly where your opponent is. You decide to flash him and swing to secure the kill. But unfortunately, you flash him and he's full blind, yet you still go down. Does that mean your play was bad? Absolutely not. With what utility you had left, you objectively made one of the best plays you could. Now, maybe you swung too early. Maybe you gave him a small visual before he was blinded. That's a possibility. But that does not mean the play in its entirety was bad. And it's so important that you understand when a play you go for is good and not, regardless of the outcome. Because if you always look at outcome, your understanding of what is good and not won't be as good as it can. So I challenge you to do the following the next time you play. Reflect upon every single death in a match. Did you make a good play when going down or a bad one? Most of the time when you go down, it is because you made a bad play. But try to always find something that you could have done better. And if you made a good play and went down, give yourself credit then too. This is one of the fastest ways to climb the ranks. Reaching Immortal will be easier with a duo partner, and Twitter or X and Discord are your two best tools when it comes to finding a potential duo partner. If your only goal with Valorant is to get to Immortal, stop solo queuing right now, and before every ranked session you play, find a duo to play with, whether that be from Twitter or Discord. On these platforms, people are way more serious about the game compared to the people you'll normally meet in matchmaking, and having one guy on the team you know you can rely on will make winning games and getting kills so much easier. Obviously, if you can play with the same person every day and he is as eager as you are to get to Immortal, that will make the journey extremely enjoyable. But don't be scared to ask new people either. People who want to improve, win games, and get to one one of the top ranks out there. You just need to look a little bit. It's truthfully pretty simple, and I'm relatively confident that you'll be able to find someone in the first 5 minutes of looking if you look in the right places. If you want to make your skill skyrocket over the next month, I have a hack for you, and that is finding your weaknesses and working hard on them. In ranked in the lower ranks, you often have players who are really good at shooting and terrible with utility. And then you have players who stink at shooting but are gods with utility. In other words, they have an imbalance in their skill set. This imbalance usually comes from enjoying one aspect of Valorant more than the other. Some players love the aiming aspect, whilst others love the utility and strategic aspect. If this sounds like something that is relevant to you, I think it's time to get rid of the ego and start hard practicing either utility or aim. In my case, I've always been someone who has thoroughly enjoyed the aiming aspect. The utility aspect I used to think was stupid, but as soon as I put my head down and understood that it was something I needed to practice, I started improving faster than I had in months. I was watching guides left, right, and center, trying to get any new information I didn't already know. It was extremely boring, but seeing my ranked results only become better and better as the weeks went on was one of the most motivating times in my gaming career. I have another challenge for you. Try to find 2 weaknesses you can work on. Weaknesses can, for example, be utility usage, communication, aim, movement, strat calling, and the list goes on. Find these 2 things and work a little extra on them in the coming weeks. And trust me, you'll get a whole lot closer to Immortal. This next tip is something you won't need to reach Immortal. But if you're going for becoming a perfect player, or someone close, someone who truly stands out, then this is something for you. In Valorant, when you get the fundamentals down in terms of mastering movement to a degree, your crosshair placement is super solid, and you know to burst and not spray, of course with a few exceptions, then it might be time to practice micro adjustments. Micro adjustments are the small mouse movements you need to make to land on your opponent's head when in a duel. Practicing it will most easily be done through an aim trainer like Aimlabs or Kovacs. Now again, I want to make it crystal clear that you do not by any means need this to reach Immortal, but if you're grinding to one day play this game full time, or in other words professionally, then this may be something for you. I'm personally only familiar with Kovacs, as that is my preferred aim trainer, so I can only recommend maps on Kovacs. The following maps is what I would personally play if I went for going pro in Valorant: 1 wall 5 targets _ Pasu, bounce 180, and leap 180 reload. These maps are perfect dynamic clicking maps and will take your aim to the next level. Now, if you find aim training very boring, do not play it. Getting bored will cause you to get burned out, and reaching Immortal will become a fight, not something enjoyable. However, if you genuinely enjoy a good session of aim training, like me, then it can take you to the very top of aiming. I also need to note that aim training is something you need to do consistently. Doing it for a week won't have any significant impact on your aim at all. Aim training is made for getting repetitions down of countless different aim scenarios you might find yourself in, so that when you get in similar situations in game, you will be able to, without thinking about it, hit incredible shots. It's not some magic pill that will make you ass pass overnight. Just a little heads up. I also need to add that playing the game will be more effective than aim training. I personally do aim training to wind down after a long day of grinding, and I recommend you do the same. If you have the energy to play the game, you do that. If not, then it's awesome if you can get in 15 minutes to an hour on Kovacs or Aimlabs. It will help you develop unique skills not everybody else in the world possesses. Guys, hitting Immortal for the first time is an absolutely awesome feeling. It's the rank where you become a player in the top 1% of Valorant, and it is for many the rank that truly reflects a major sense of accomplishment. I tried to fill today's video with everything I would want to hear if I was in the lower ranks of the game, and I really hope you guys got some good value from it. Thank you guys so much for watching.